Yep. All righty, we should be almost live. Hang on, let me just get my.
I can get my
There we go.
laptop too.
Copy.
Finally. Do-do-do.
Oh shit! All right, come on.
Oh, somebody's on. Two people.
Yeah, we're hot. We're live. You can
It's
start.
live somewhere.
It's live. I'm just
All
I'm
right. I
I'm
can't see
just
chat.
No, I'm gonna get it in a second. I gotta bring it back up. That was what I screwed up last time and didn't have the chat up, and so I missed everybody telling us it was echoing when it
Is
was
the chat on Facebook or are you looking at it somewhere else?
I have it. I don't know. It's what do you call it?
Through the whatever
Yeah,
the software is?
it's you would have to go on YouTube and kind of just mute it out. Now I'm lost to where the live is. My chat is. Hold on.
Because I could just get on the live on Facebook muted and look at the questions, or you could just read them to me. But I think it'd be fun to field some questions.
Yeah, I'd have to add them to the broadcast. I'll look later. I don't know because I have a window that's comments and reactions. I don't know how to make it so you can see it. It does have a thing to add it to the broadcast, but it looks like I have to add them manually.
I could look on Facebook though to
Yeah, we're
see if
good.
if
I
like
mean,
somebody, because on the live there it should have those questions. And
yeah, if you just log on to Facebook and open it up on your phone and just mute it, it should be fine. But we're there now. We're all good.
yeah.
Like I said, I'm just so annoyed. I have this black cloud over me that just wants to rain on all these little things that we're doing, and it's just driving me insane that nothing works, and it's just weirdness.
Yeah, I got it up here. I don't know that I'll be able to actually follow it perfect, but I
Okay,
see
yeah,
Laura.
Laura says both are working now and both are good, so we could just jump in, and if people come on, people come on. I'm not gonna. Just so many little hiccups people leave. You know what I mean? And that's part of the thing that I fire it up and then Facebook drops. I turn it off and then YouTube lags. And so
Yeah. And
yeah,
Jose
it
says,
looks good. Yeah, it looks good.
so one question I got today, and I like, it's very pretty rare where I'm like, God, I don't even know how to answer that question at all, like just completely stumped. And it's a pretty simple question. It was said, can you do a video comparing good gear versus bad gear or and I thought,
Yeah.
like,
I mean, you
well,
did that
people want
before.
cheap stuff and people want like super budget stuff. But the problem is, like, you and I don't really have super budget stuff. The only budget thing that I've got that I think everybody's using right now are the 1 inch risers, and it's
Well,
just
you
there's
you
not
have
enough
the
time.
Springfield 2020. You did a bunch with that at one time, and that's budget. We have the Weatherby. The Weatherby's a crossover hunter. That doesn't have any barrel to it. That is worth a damn. Long range wise. We do have subpar equipment we can play with. I could always grab, not that it's subpar, but I do have like Magpul stocks. They're pro stock. We could always throw a barreled action in a less than stock that I may have pulled off, although I don't consider the Magpul awful because it's really adjustable. I think it's a better kids stock, but I think it's good. So I don't know.
Yes, but that's why I think it's a hard question because, like, well, what constitutes good gear versus bad? And so
Yeah, I mean, it would
I've been
almost
thinking
saying,
about it.
a wobbly barricade versus a solid barricade.
If let's play like the hypothetical game which would be kind of a fun like shooting show. But like, what if somebody said, um, we're gonna give you like a Visa gift card for a big box store, and you had a certain amount of dollars to get a complete setup that actually had to be functional. Um, you would have to have a dollar amount to go into a big box store and get. You'd have to have, you'd have to have a rifle. You'd have to have rings. You'd have to have a scope. At least one magazine. It probably comes with the rifle. You'd have to have ammo, a bipod, um, a bag. You'd have to have, probably a laser rangefinder.
At least, well, yeah. I mean, depending on the event you did, because some will give you a range, but for sure,
Uh, what I guess like that's how I would probably frame a good gear versus bad, only because but I, I'm hesitant to say bad because of money, because I could say right now, like if somebody said, okay, well, the Weatherby you're shooting, I would say it's a good rifle.
it is a good, yeah, but it's just not a
So,
great barrel. I mean, it's a hunting barrel, so long range it
right.
won't sustain target. And that would be the bad, is that it's a hunting barrel that couldn't sustain a rate of fire.
It has but I mean, we could shoot groups an inch or less than an inch with
Oh, absolutely.
factory ammo. So the velocities checked out,
I
the
mean, with the
groups checked
100
out.
grain V Maxes, those that Weatherby rocks with the 100 grainer.
Yeah, the barrel was short enough where like it almost sounds funny to say, but like the velocity was like 3180, you know, versus 3250.
Right.
So we had a 70 foot per second drop in velocity, but that's a barrel length thing, not a quality of gear. But like, what would be like, let's imagine a hypothetical game where um where somebody would have to go into a store and with a fixed amount of money be able, I mean, but you would have to figure out what's the absolute cheapest setup that you could get with rifle, ring, scope, magazine, bipod bag, laser rangefinder, and some boxes of ammo. There would be a bare minimum um
And it dropped us
threshold.
again. It dropped us on Facebook again.
Oh no. Waiting for live video signal. So it
It
says
dropped.
it's waiting for
See,
signal.
something is wrong, and this is what's going to kill doing these lives, is that it dropped. Now I changed computer, I hook everything up, and it just threw us off of Facebook.
Is there like a screensaver kind of thing? Because I had to go open up my screen.
No, it
Like,
just said continue without Facebook. It just gives
oh,
you a
that's
choice
weird.
to end everything now or to keep going. I don't know why it's dropping.
Maybe there's
Let
a
me
time
No, this was 8 minutes. I looked. Last time
setting
it was 5. No, it was 8 and change. I looked because last time it
because
dropped at
on
5.
Facebook I could take a screenshot of it, but it says waiting for live video signal. The broadcast is waiting for a signal. It
Yeah,
should resume
it
shortly.
dropped. It dropped. That's the problem.
Um, is your did your internet dip or
No, I have 1200. I don't know. Like I said, it's new equipment. It's a new computer, and it's this black cloud over my head where nothing is working, and I don't know. So we'll just go with YouTube again and just go from there. It's sounding good. So I don't
sure.
know.
I'll comment there, go to YouTube. Um,
Yeah.
Facebook
I don't
dropped.
have an answer. It doesn't tell you a diagnostic.
Yeah, it just says here that it's just waiting for a signal. So it's not necessarily dropped. Some signal stopped
No, because it ended
transferring
it.
over.
It ended the Facebook part of the broadcast. My system saw it drop and killed it.
Oh, but this makes it sound like
Right,
your
because it's a
system
problem.
dropped it. Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
telling you,
Well,
it's just
let's get back to this question. I guess we could get on a website and look at like what's the cheapest bolt action.
well, it's Tika, and
Um,
I have Tikas, but all my Tikas have aftermarket barrels. I change the barrels on all my Tika. The cheapest gun you're gonna buy is a Tika, and the problem with the Tika is the stock. The if you buy the cheapest Tika possible, you're getting the plastic Tupperware stock that won't conform to anything. If you move up to the Tika Tac A1, the stock is still not optimal, but then that's an $1,800 gun, 2,200 now, I think. And then as well, the Ruger RPR. The Ruger RPR, and I have those, is going to be your cheapest. The Ruger is going to be set up better than the Tika because it's got a flat front and it's designed for comp. But I mean, that's where the money and that's where everything is.
okay, so I just went on Cabela's website and just put in 6.5 Creedmoor rifle. In stock right now, the only 6.5 that they have is a Sig Sauer Cross, and that's 15.99.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see, Sig Cross 15.99. Okay, so Sig Cross. People are shooting those at NRL hunters, but I haven't really shot one other than at a demo at an event, and I it wasn't enough for me to have a judgment. So I'm gonna go to Shields.
The SIGs are we get a lot in class. I just had a guy in Ohio class in October with a SIG. In fact, he does the videos on the hide on truck guns. So there's a truck
Okay.
gun guy who uses a SIG Cross. The SIG Cross, although there's a PRS model now with a longer barrel, longer fore end, the SIG's problem is it's an 18-inch barrel. It's short. So a fix and a cross, it's velocity because the barrels are short. So that's where the budget comes in, and that's why SIG has the longer barreled comp version of it with a 24, 26-inch barrel. And it's just it's a velocity issue. It's not a gun or a barrel. It's an 18-inch barrel.
Hmm.
I mean, it's really the same. What you're kind of going for, Chris, is
Hmm.
you need to do this with a 20-inch AR. That's the limitation. Is you need to find something that's a 20-inch AR that is that's the number that's going to be your budget. So whatever you get out of a 20-inch AR is really what the limitations are because it's all velocity.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right. Uh,
It's
yeah.
factory ammo is slow. The shorter barrels are slow, and everything at 2750 with an SD of 25. That's the problem, and
Hmm.
so you have to find what fixes that, and the fix is velocity. So you either change cartridge and do the VMAX, or you have to go barrel and different thing. I mean, like I said, I have Tikas. I trade my barrels out because they're slow. A Tika's like a
Hmm.
2670 out of a 140 class. They're barely 2700.
Hmm.
So I mean, the cheap rig is an AR.
Hmm. But to do the stuff that we like to do, sometimes an AR, the nice ones cost a lot. Um, so I'm just trying to pull up the Shields didn't have anything.
No, I mean
Let's see.
you would have to do Sportsman's or Bass Pro or Cabela's, the bigger stores.
And I want to do
Shields is not gun. But
yeah.
no, I find that it's because that's what limits me. So, like, and here's a funny thing. So last night I was talking with Scott from Vortex, right? And we spent about an hour on the phone last night. And Scott was talking about guys who teach versus guys who compete, and the guys who don't teach not competing as much. And then he brought me up because he says you'll pop into competitions and tend to be top 20 when you do it, where the other people, and he says he'll mention me all the time. Well, the reason I don't do better is because I shoot factory ammo every time I go to a comp. And that's
Hmm.
the limitation, is that I don't have the speed I need, and I don't have the consistency. And that speed throws, when you're at 2670, 2700 even with a 6.5 Creed, that's not going to get you anywhere. That you might as well shoot a 308 at 2650 because you know it better.
Yeah, I mean, well, competition is getting so focused that any good shooter that's not tuned into that competition style and is doing it periodically to stay kind of in tune with the subtleties is gonna, have an issue. I mean, I somebody posted the other day, um, some kind of competition thing like, thanks, I had a great time, whatever. And it was a match in Texas. And I scrolled through the standings, and there's guys that have golden bullets at like, 100th, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100th place, which doesn't tell me that they're bad shooters. It just says, wow, they haven't competed in a while. And the competition is so stiff that unless you're doing it regularly,
Yeah.
um, the margin of error with good shooters that are doing it all the time is so small that, you've got 60 shooters that, you don't know who they are. But I was surprised to see
I would
maybe
bet
five
there's,
big names.
yeah, I would bet there's about 20 people that could be within a point of each other.
Yeah, I didn't actually look at the points as much as I just kind of looked for some familiar names, and I was surprised to see, not just familiar names, but guys that have won quite a few matches, pretty far down. And what my first hunch was, well, competition is getting very, very competitive at a frequency level. And I bet if we looked at the people that did well at the top, first of all, they might shoot at that range a lot. And second of all, they've probably done more in a condensed period of time than some of those other folks. And I get it, but a good shooter has to not only be a good shooter with fundamentals and know the game, but be tuned up. I bet if, I mean, we'd
Yeah.
probably get our asses kicked, but if we went up and found Muhammad Ali or, somebody that's not, brain damaged, they're not gonna win a prize fight. Um,
Right. I mean,
just
clearly
just
you have to. I mean, think about the prep of a prize fight and when someone drops out. So
yeah,
you're getting, so me and you are gonna fight each other. I hurt myself with, 3 months to go. They cancel the fights.
right, right.
Right.
But
You
but
know what
also
I
now
mean?
think like you won a fight 5 years ago. That doesn't mean that today you're gonna just jump in
No,
a
not
ring
at all.
and I
Right.
mean
Right.
you're
And that,
gonna on the street you're gonna be good, but everybody at a match like this is a good streeter if we do the street comparison. Like we take an average shooter and we take anybody at a competition, the people at the competition are likely already the top of the top globally, but when you
yeah.
sort them out in a standing of 300 shooters or something, because it was a huge match with I had so many, hundreds of people. um anyway, my takeaway was that you have to be doing a certain frequency to perform at a certain level. But so I pulled up Sportsman's Warehouse and I filtered it by 6.5 Creedmoor. And the truth is, I haven't shot these rifles, but there's a Savage for 350.
Yeah. Savage
It's
is a good lower budget.
a 22-inch 6.5 Creedmoor that's 350. And then there's a 380 and a 400. Those are all Savages. And then there's a Remington 783. Some of these don't have rings, so to mount a scope might be a little tricky, but the ones with the ring, there's a Mossberg Patriot 6.5,
Yeah, they're
22-inch barrel.
the Ruger American,
Ruger
the
American is 430.
right, the Mossberg. And to be honest, Chris, because I see all those in Alaska. I could show you 100 pictures with the Ruger. And the problem is the stocks,
Okay.
or that generally is the stock translated to the bipod. Because this is where Mark and I were able to take a shooter with those platforms,
Hmm.
those inexpensive, everything, out of the box store. We're talking Vortex on top, sub 1,000. You're talking a Ruger American, a Harris bipod at 89, probably not even an adjustable one, probably the basic Harris, and then
Hmm.
some form of factory ammo. When you put
They have
all
it.
that together, we can max a shooter out. However, if we start changing things, even the bipod, like in the past, what we used to do is throw an elite iron on. And if you threw an elite iron on and replaced it, the person would jump to another level. So if they were a 3/4 MOA shooter, 2/10 of a mil, and then we changed the bipod on that platform, they would gain a tenth. You know what I mean? They would come down a little bit. And
Yeah.
so it's a combination of these items that cause the problems. So it's
Hmm.
not you bought a Ruger American, it's you have a Ruger American in the original stock. You have the lower budget scope, which doesn't track 100%, it's 98%. And then you have
Hmm.
a bipod that doesn't move and adjust, a basic Harris, and you're shooting the worst of the factory ammo that you can get. That is a
Hmm.
recipe to shoot a minute and a half, a minute and a quarter.
Yeah. And so what you're saying is that these stocks flex.
Yeah, they're plastic, they're Tupperware, and they move like crazy.
Okay. So
They're almost, the
when,
Hogue, like Ruger and Mossbergs are like the Hogue stock, almost like the Weatherby. That rubbery, flexy, move a lot.
gotcha. So there's a Mossberg Patriot with a walnut.
Yeah, is
Uh,
that the colored one? It has like laminate wood. It's green,
I can't
yellow.
tell, but no, this one looks like it's made out of wood and it's
Yeah, but
600
they have a
bucks.
laminate wood. They have one that in like there's like green and reds and yellows, but it's wood, but it's
Mhm.
like a laminate. And so it looks woody, but it's a composite,
Gotcha.
you know.
Um,
So,
let me see what this says for flex. Okay, so but I do think we're actually getting somewhere because if we take these cheap rifles, they're not cheap barreled actions necessarily.
right.
They're in something that has a hard time stabilizing the precision that we
Yeah. I
expect
mean,
out
it's
of
the
gear.
same with Savage. Savage's problem is one, like a lot of their base screws are out of spec, so their base would move. But their
Hmm.
stocks were less than desirable. Like originally when they jumped to MDT, now you can get some Savages that are trick. They'll have a better stock, they'll have a lot of different things. But what was the problem is you would get a Savage and it would come in an MDT Stalker chassis. It had no forearm. So you had 24 inches of barrel and like 8 inches of forearm. And then you had a AR buttstock on it. And so you never can get behind the rifle correctly, and you never had anything that puts you in a place for success. Yank that Savage barreled action out and put it into a better stock. Make sure your base screws are good, make sure everything's Loctited down, and your Savage becomes a good platform. But out of the box, you have to check a Savage more than any other. You know what I mean? And that's just part of it.
So this walnut one is actually wood. It's a wood stock, and the length of pull is 13.75 inches. So I'm gonna check that. So if you got this, let's say it's $600, right? It's 599. The walnut's not gonna flex like the cheaper material, but it could have a bedding issue. So you'd need to take it out
Yeah.
and bed it and get it stuck in there. But the length of pull being fixed might be an issue. I'm not concerned so much about the cheek riser as I am a length of pull. So I'm gonna get a tape measure really quick and see what 13.75 inches looks like, because I want to figure out like a theoretical um cheap system that sounds like it would be functional.
Yeah.
um 13.75, so right here, let's see what this measures out to um on here. So this is 13 and a quarter, so it's going to be longer than this. um This one, so this rifle here is 13.75. I don't want to touch it because we're on YouTube live, but the foundation stocks are, when I've heard people talk about them, they say, well, foundation stocks typically have a shorter length of pull. So that's not a super long length of pull if it's like a
Right.
foundation stock collapsed.
And you've
And
actually gone shorter too, because like my stock was right at the edge of fitting for me. And when me
mhm,
and you were kind of playing with it and looking at the way you set things up, I actually shrunk mine in like a quarter of an inch on
yeah.
the rifle that I could. And I thought I was pretty short to begin with, and we even brought it down shorter.
So my sequence is 13. This uh, 6.5 is 13 and a quarter, and the foundation with the impact is 13.75. So it's the same length of pull as that foundation. So this sounds like it could be a possibility for eliminating some of the stock issues that you would get with the flex and the
Yeah. I mean,
inconsistency.
the
But
answer is a chassis, right? I mean, the thing
yeah.
is like I'm dealing with a company right now. I met these guys at SHOT Show, Detroit Rifle Works. I got to look them up their name exactly, but I think it's Detroit Rifle Works. Um, and they're doing barreled actions. You know what I mean? And it was like I just ordered up a barreled action to test with them. And in my mind, and I get it, there's a whole lot of things. It should be like barreled actions on the shelf. And then if you want to pick a trigger, if you want to pick a stock, if you want to have them build a complete rifle, but like uh Arrow does it with the Solus, the barreled action exit to me is a better way to go. And
Mhm.
I it's just these stock or the Ruger, the Mossberg, they're so cheap. They give you that cheap stock, and then nobody
Mhm.
really wants to upgrade because you know what I mean. They bought it, it's good, and nobody's like me. I buy a Tika and I rip it apart. You know what I mean? It's like I want the Tika action, and so
Mhm.
really it would be like, well, just get a Tika action, and that's kind of where we should be today. We should be just ordering barreled actions and then having the stock you want show up and then putting them
Okay,
together.
so I got on Brownells. They have a Howa 6.5 Creedmoor
Right. And those are cheap and
barreled
those are good.
action, and it says 410 to 550. I don't know what.
It probably
um
barrel length and caliber, I would bet.
well, it's all 6.5 Creedmoor, but it's the M 1500. Let's see what the deal is with this. Let's click on it and see what the price. Oh, whether it's blued or stainless.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
So so I will just go with blued. It's 410. So $410, you get a barreled action. Uh, how a barreled action, and what does it come with? It comes with uh hinged floor plate, so the
Yeah.
bottom metal. It's got a heavy bull barrel, match contour, 1 to 8 rifling, threaded muzzle, uh, and that's that. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, immediately we're already talking about getting out of the walnut stock option, but what we're gonna get here is at least a better idea. So I think there's potential with that Mossberg in walnut. It's $600. So I'm going to put that there. And here I'm going to say the Howa 6.5 barreled action.
And the Howa's like my video on the Howa I did, God, 5, 6 years ago, gets insane views. Like Howa
It's
barreled actions, which are Weatherby. It's Japanese Weatherby, really. Howa kind of got bought. They're owned by Japan, but they're super popular. Hornback used to. I don't know if he still does. Hornback worked for the parent company that brought Howa in here, Legacy. I don't know if Matt Hornback still works for them, but he used to.
Yeah, I remember seeing him on the ads that would pop up. Well, maybe we can get him on to talk if even if he doesn't work for them, he could at least
Yeah, he
say.
could totally tell us. But Howas are, like I said, my video on the Howa is very popular.
So the rifle chassis that fit a Howa barreled action are all the MDT ones
Mm-hmm.
fit. So the cheapest MDT is the field stock chassis system. But again, that's got the swivel cap for a bipod. And I think that realistically, you're going to want to Arca rail because if we're talking about precision shooting, flipping it into a tripod is going to be important. And there's no way to get a rail without screwing it on there. So let's see what the cheapest chassis with a rail. Does the XRS have it? Uh, let's see what this has.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's $500. So
Right.
you
I
get
mean,
a
any
you
way
got
you
a
look at
barreled
it, we
action.
can get a sub $600 barreled action or rifle. Any way you look at it,
Yeah,
sub
that
$600 can get you in the game.
uh-huh. Let's see what this has on it. This has Arca rail. Okay, so that's all I was really looking for is whether it had Arca rail. Just want to see the features. Um,
The Facebook thing still makes me mad.
yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
it's
go on like
frustrating.
I'm gonna go on tomorrow and just go live on Facebook and I'm just gonna let it run and see what happens. Like I'm gonna come in and work on the computer in the morning because I got to do a video call with the VA and stuff in the afternoon. But I'm gonna just turn on just Facebook and see what happens. That like I said, I'm so over this.
Oh, this has an M lock. It's not Arca, but you can put an Arca on there. So that the Howa, fuck, what was the stupid price of that? This is 550.
Five.
So let's
I was
say
gonna say
550
500 is where you were.
MDT. The Howa thing was about $500. I'll go back to it.
Yeah, that was
We'll
and
you
that
know,
was
we're,
the
tr-
more
we're
expensive. The Ruger and the Mossbergs were in the $400 zone. The Howo barreled action at 5 so far was your more expensive one.
yeah, $410. $410 plus a $500 MDT. Plus you'd have to get an Arca rail. So we'd have to go somewhere like 419. You could go on Amazon and get a full length Arca with an M lock. But I would rather put something on that you knew was going to be able to handle it. But for
Yeah,
now, let's
yeah,
say 100 bucks. And then, I mean, the cheapest bipod is the Harris, right? But a Harris
right.
with the Arca attachment is like 250 or something crazy.
The old BRS used to be $89. That was your swivel Oryx. Yeah, they're talking the Oryx. How cheap is the Oryx stock? That was their cheapest one. The Oryx.
Um,
But you used to be able to get the cheapest Harris for $90. I don't know where they are now. And I know you can get ones that have aftermarket stuff put on them that really kind of bring the price up. But at the end of the
okay,
day,
Oryx is
Harris is.
430.
And now MDT has better bipods that are cheaper. They have
Hmm.
ones that have a bigger apex that are a little better, that are cheaper. So I would say get a barrel action and go straight to MDT and not do
Okay, so we
anything.
got
Yeah, go
MDT
to
bipods.
right, because they have
We
like
got the
5.
Oryx, and the Oryx bipod is $100.
Right.
The MDT grind pod is 200, and then
And that would be
Skypods
the
are
minimum one I would buy. There's the one there in the middle, the ground pod or something. That one would be the bare minimum for an entry level bipod. Because I was talking with them at SHOT Show, and we were talking that bipod evolution and where it was going. And like me hands on and playing with them all, that ground pod was about the best bang for the buck. And
okay.
then
So the
yes, the
ground pod is 199, and then so we got a barreled action. We got the Oryx, we've got the bipod, and then we've got a rail for another $100. Then we're gonna need a scope
yep.
and rings.
DNT 600.
Bushnell,
DNT, no, the
D,
DNT for 7 to 35 DNT is 599 and it's an awesome scope. And it's a
okay,
7 to 35
599, 7 to 35 DNT,
and that's a
and then a set
34.
of rings.
Yeah,
Okay, so
34.
it's
So
34 millimeter tube.
I almost and I should
Um,
have did it and I walked out the door. I almost got the Night Force 13s or 19s rather. 193
yeah,
because they have them at Mile
the
High. The 19 height.
yeah, yeah.
They have Night Force 19s.
Are they individuals, or are
Yeah,
they
no, they're the
a single mount?
cantilever. They're the ones that look like the Geisleys now. They look like the
Oh yeah,
Geisley.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But those are
they're
good.
the.
Night Force makes good rings.
Oh, absolutely. I use Night Force rings all the time. I like them as the
Um,
lightest rings out there, and I use a metric ton of Night Force.
1.5 inch, 34 millimeter rings. Let's see what happens here. Let's go
Because
to.
I went in
I
today.
should.
I got this today. I cleared a can for the guys waiting for you. I cleared a can and then I put the Able Pie into the queue. So like I took one out of the queue today, my Thunder Beast,
Mhm.
recoil reducing, and then I put one in the queue with an Able Pie. So I'm always have a can in the queue.
Nice.
Like that's my
Okay, so
goal.
there's some rings here. Um, that well, now the queue's so stupid fast that that's harder because you're gonna have to get a can every
Well, it
three or
takes
four
me because
days.
I do the corporate. It takes me 3 months. I don't get like I don't get uh them as fast as you do. Mine are 3 months. Yours are 3 days. And then Loris or
So
Nathan said a muzzle brake. You got to put a muzzle brake on it.
okay, we've got when I'm looking at rings, there's cantilever single mounts, but I'm gonna leave those off for now. We've got Burris Extreme Tactical. So here's the thing with the Burris ones, they have a plastic insert ring that
Nah,
goes between the rings and the scope. And I think that like you don't want to put plastic between your scope and ring. So I'm gonna rule those out. American Rifle Company, that's $300. Night Force is $200. Vortex 150.
the Vortex would be
Night
the cheap, or Seekins. Seekins or Vortex would be the cheapest to go with a better set of rings. Vortex will be your probably bare bones cheapest. So you could almost probably buy a Vortex scope. Well, we're gonna do DNT, but their
Oh,
rings
here,
would
MDT Premier is 130.
okay. Then those
Um,
I would
I don't
probably
see Seekins on here, but I'm just on Midway.
yeah.
Um,
MDT at 130 is gonna be your cheapest. Nobody's gonna have rings less than that.
okay, so we got 130 for rings. 130 for rings,
A muzzle
and then a
brake.
break.
Nathan said brake, so you're gonna have to do some kind of brake. MDT's got their brakes too, so I would just shop on them on their page. Best practice it and
Yeah,
just go right down MDT.
and Hawkins has a good break that's not super expensive.
Oh,
I have
yeah,
it
they're
on a
cheap
couple.
too.
I have it on that on the Weatherby is
Yes,
uh okay, let's find muzzle brake. Um let's. Well, I don't. Let's just say forget all the suppressor adapter
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
brake
Just
stuff
do a
and go for
regular break and
pure
get them up and running.
MDT is 250. Their comp muzzle brake. There's got to be something else. MDT Elite muzzle brake is 130.
There you go.
Um, let's see what else. I'm not like I still don't get like the radial brakes. Like
No, the Voss, terrible. Why would anybody? Vosses don't work. I have that for that Weatherby. That Weatherby came with a Voss, and then yeah, Area 419, but they're proud, so their stuff's a little expensive. I don't think they're cheaper anyway.
yeah, I mean we're going down the same website. They just have 4 pages of brakes here. So Area 419 is 170.
That's not bad.
JP is 100. The Benny
Okay.
Cooley tactical one that
Oh, the
would
big
like,
crazy one? Isn't that the big one?
blow your, yeah,
Yeah.
blow the hat off the people next
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, the Benny Cooley one, yeah.
So you gotta let's see. These are all expensive, but 130 is about where the JP and the MDT are. Christian Arms still 180.
So figure
Um
150. Let's just go and say we have a budget. Let's put ourselves in a budget and let somebody pick and say we know
yeah,
we can get one at 150 for the budget. So
right.
let's
And
go
then
with
we're
the
gonna need a
barrel.
magazine.
Yep.
Um okay, so we got one, we'll give 150. 150, and then let's say two
Uh,
magazines. Let's just add $200 for that because
mm-hmm.
we'll just call it that. And then you need a bag, a
Yep.
game changer,
160.
160, and
I got to
then
get
you're
one of
good,
those
but you're gonna
bags
need a
from you.
laser.
I need one of those bags.
Okay.
I'm out of game changers.
Um, we got game changers.
Mm-hmm. For
Um,
days.
let me add this up. Um, applications, Riley's greeting a neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we got 410
Yeah, this is the
plus.
recoil reducing brake on the Thunder Beast. Casey's asking there, you could see it better on my forehead. But that's the recoil reducer. They time and yeah, that's the brake for that. That's there. So recoil reducing. These things rock.
Yes.
Magnus with a recoil
The,
reducer. Whoa!
yeah, they're fantastic, and you notice. I
Chris
mean,
got him right
it's like the
behind him
best of both
too.
worlds.
If you look behind
Yeah.
Chris, he's got one vertical over his left shoulder, and then he's got one on the rifle at the top. So he's got a short guy like a Dominus or something, and then he's got a Magnus or an Elite 9 or whatever he's got over there. But he's got two with brakes on them.
So $2,377 before
Oh, yeah.
tax, and you've got a that's what we would call the complete budget system. Um, yeah, I've got it. There's one up on this rifle, but um this is the 338 with recoil reducing on it, and it's freaking awesome. I mean, so
Uh-oh.
what's
Scound
cool
is
about
skipping.
the SR is, you screw it on and then it locks, so it's not going to back off. And then there is a wrench, and you just loosen it a little bit, and you can tune where the brake is vertical for whatever the rifle is that it's on, and then lock it down. But the point of aim, point of impact, like the return to zero, you could take it off, take a shot, put it on, take a shot. Notice the point of aim, point of impact difference, and then take it off. And the next one's going to go where the other one without a can was. And you put it back on, and the next one's going to go where the can is. And two of these rifles, it's the same point of aim, point of impact, which like is pretty rare for my rifles to have the same one. But more often than not, it's like 3/10 of vertical, maybe 2/10 of wind. but it's consistent. You could take it on, put it off, take it on, put it off. I mean, I could do a 10 shot group, taking off the suppressor, waiting 5 minutes, putting it back on, and that group is going to be as tight as if I left it on and shot. But this break, if you look at it, it doesn't look fancy. It's not, um, it doesn't have the parachute bevels and stuff. It's just flat wings. And it's as good of a break as any rifle break that I have. Plus, the air going into the suppressor lengthens it, that it feels less than using a brake, but it's quiet.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they're so worth it. It's not even a question. Like, um, the price for something like this, it's just I just can't even comprehend. I feel like I'm on like the Princess Bride. Like it's
Yeah, and
inconceivable.
then when we were just at, because I cleared all the suppressors and I was doing my Able Pie, Mile High is now selling Able, and they have a whole display cabinet up front of all the Ables they have there. And so
Oh,
there's a
that's
lot of
awesome.
options that are going to be able to go with the Ables also. So,
Yeah, here's the Able. So what's cool about Able is the end caps you can unscrew, and the end cap, just you can see here it's just a normal end cap. You can get one that's ported so that the gas from a gas gun
yeah, flow through.
comes out, or in the future, if they make things that you could stick on the end of them. Let's say they had another can that you could put two together, or they had something else. You could just pull your end cap off
Yeah,
and
yeah.
add it to the end.
Your only limitation is your imagination. What might you stick on the end of a suppressor? Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
except for a target. Uh, so I think that's really cool that
Although
you could just
I have
it's
somewhere
modular.
in the house, I have a spiky mini monster. So I did it. I loaned Surefire my Hindsolt for a photo shoot years ago, like 20 years ago. I had my Hindsolt Spotter 60, and Surefire said, "Hey, can we borrow that for a photo shoot?" And I said, "Sure." So I gave it to them. They used it in a photo shoot. When they sent it back, they were like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "Spiky mini monster." So I have the head smasher with the crown on it that is meant to poke people in the face when you're coming through a door. So it has a crown of darts, or whatever, or spikes. It's a spiky mini monster, but it's got really aggressive spikes on it. So if you come around the corner and there's somebody there, you can
Oh, that's nice. That's funny. Like, oh, but think about something that would go over, like the crown that would screw on, but it went over and just went around the back of the suppressor. You could have like World War II bombs, or
Yeah,
you could
bayonets,
have
all
a
kinds of shit. Let's do a bayonet spike on it, like
you
attach
could have
one
a
on the.
unicorn, like screws on the unicorn, and the it goes shrouds the suppressor backwards but doesn't touch it.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, and then
you could have
everybody's
whatever
been
you want.
calling me and talking to me about the Arkin, and they built everything into the barrel with the hub and then the pass through. So the barrel almost becomes part of the suppressor like a OSS used to. So, like
Hmm.
with the carbon fiber and all this stuff, like stuff can go through and it's using the barrel. So at SHOT Show, and I never saw it, but at SHOT Show, Arkin has a rifle with a suppressor that uses the barrel and does a bunch of stuff.
I
So, but a hub
mean, it
is
makes
built
sense
into
that
it.
you would
It
do
it's
that.
built into a hub. So the rifle has a hub already on it, and it's meant for you to add any suppressor after the fact. Kind
That's
of
pretty
neat.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, kind of
Yeah,
neat.
that is cool.
So,
Okay, so circling back to the budget thing, I think that the cheap gear, it's not the stuff, but it's some of the components add. to error, like flex. If there's flex, it's not going to be
Right.
accurate. And if there's not things that you can attach stuff to, like a bipod, you're going to have to add it later, which is going to be added expense. And you can't do anything until you do add it. So, but the configuration that we just came up with, I think has the
What was the total
criteria that
for it?
would,
What was the total on that
it was,
configure?
uh, it was 2,300 and $2,377. You would have all the features, everything that I think would satisfy the potential. I mean, if you got a shitty barrel, it would just be bad. But that gun could perform probably as good as any gun
Yeah, yeah,
if,
that would work.
and in which case the weight might be the only factor that would be different. But for $2,400, my guess is it's probably possible to compete alongside a $6,000 rifle if you had those components, and they
Yeah,
didn't
because I
flex
mean, you can do.
and
I personally think you can probably, and I like the action a lot. I personally would probably go Aero Solus and do that because
Mhm,
it's a 3 lug. The chassis, if you buy the complete rifle in 6.5 Creedmoor, I think it's comp worthy out of the box. I think the stock is fine. So I think you can buy an Aero Solus and then put a scope
mhm.
on it, which is now going to bring you to 3 grand, but it's still just at 3 grand if you did a DNT and then rings, and then you'd have to do a break. So you're going to be you're adding like $1,000 if you did an Aero Solus, I would think. But they
Okay,
have
so
a
here it's a 6.5 and a six Creedmoor 6.5 with Sendero barrel, and they're $1,200 for the barreled action.
what's their
So,
complete gun though? The complete gun I think is just at 2 grand, and their chassis is
oh, I
perfectly
I just
fine.
did barreled actions.
Yeah, their chassis is
Um,
perfectly fine.
bolt action rifles filtered by Solis Bravo 3. Wait, 22-inch 6.5 Creedmoor Senderos 1850.
See? So right
Um,
there, you're in the so another $600 for your scope, at 150 for rings, 150 for a break, and you're done. So
but
that's
this,
a
so here they
thousand.
got one that says competition rifle, and it looks like the chassis has Arca and a bag rider, which is probably the one you'd want to get. That's 2210.
Right,
Yeah, you're right. Like 2210 for 6 Creed, 6.5 Creed, or 308, right? But you'd want a 6.5 Creed, or if you're going to do PRS, 6 Creed would be great. 26-inch for the 6 Creedmoor. Jesus, you think
right.
of a 6 Creedmoor with a 22-inch, 26-inch barrel,
That's
dude. You'd
2,600.
have
That's 3,200 right there.
holy shit,
Yeah,
right?
you're
So,
smoking.
all right,
You're
let's do
smoking.
that. 20. You wouldn't need to get the Arca rail, so we'd take
All we
hundred
would
bucks
need
off
is
that.
$300 for rings and a break, and then 600 for the scope. So you're at $900 on top of that. So you're at $3,200. $3,200 will get you into the game, or you can go right around 3,000 for the 6.5 at 22 inch. So you're
Yeah, so
basically 3,000 for the 6.5 22, and you're 3,200 out the door for the 6 Creed.
okay, so now we're saying that budget rifles, if you're between 2,500 for the other build
See, this is
and
why the other assholes
3,200,
are so stupid to put a price tag on entry level shit, because they don't know what they're
yeah,
talking about. They don't understand the industry. They don't know what entry rifles are out there, and they threw an arbitrary number of $2,500 for rifle and scope that are completely fucking
yeah. Well, I mean, if you were um whatever the fuck that if you were Howa and and Bushnell, and you said, "Hey, if we get together, we'll make a $2,500 rifle," and you go, "Okay, great. That's our limit for the, you know what I mean? Like you're gonna sell more rifles for that
Yeah,
week."
and
But
Laura's right. Laura's saying when you throw in taxes and you throw in everything, you're still looking at $3,400 with your taxes and things like that. So if you want a comp ready rifle off the shelf in a lot of ways, you're at $3,500. If you're gonna build it and buy it, you can get into the 2 grand range, but we're talking, 2,500 to $3,500 to cobble something together that's just okay. The Soulless, I
yeah,
think, will
budget.
give you the value because it's a 3 lug, 60-degree action. It's got aftermarket. And so, any way you look at it, your price of entry is 3 grand.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
earlier today, I was talking about some parts, and the only action I have that's not, well, you have my 700, my
yeah,
Remington
it's here.
700,
Hmm.
but but I've got a left-handed impact, and just the impact with a Studeville barrel is going to be $2,200 alone. Um, but I think that, yeah, that 25 to $3,500 range, you could be competitive. I think
Yeah.
you could, in the right hands. If
You,
Arrow hired, some Oklahoman and said, "We'll give you, a salary to shoot these rifles," they're gonna
yeah, they
win
probably
matches just
can.
like
No, for
anybody
sure.
else.
Hmm. I mean, and then you had the Daniel Defense. What's the Daniel Defense Delta going?
I, I that came out and there was a lot of noise, and then all of a sudden, I literally have never seen one in the field.
No, I've only seen 3 in classes. It was the gun of the fucking thing, and they paid 50 grand to promote it. But I've only seen 3 in classes. I
And I
don't see
love the
the
company. Like I love Daniel Defense as a company. I don't know what happened. Um, they make good stuff. I imagine it shot good. I have no idea because I just haven't seen them in the real
the
world.
first one was clunky. The Gen 1 was super clunky, but they're at Gen 3 now and it's a lot more streamlined, kind of like that like the Ruger RPR, they fixed that butt stock. The butt stock on the Ruger is so much nicer now. But the Daniel Defense was clunky, but they kind of streamlined it up a bit since, like I said, it's like up to Gen 3 now, so they've done better with it. But you don't see it out in the real world hardly ever.
Yeah. If there's like a billionaire out there watching this with access to a machine shop, just call me. We could design the perfect rifle uh pretty quick. Just letting you
Yeah.
know that Frank and I we could build you a rifle that would be the coolest thing ever. Just saying.
What's the Seekins hit? Because that's the best bang for your buck switch caliber. So the hit is only like $2,400 too, and that's switch caliber, and that's a complete system. So the Seekins Hit Pro is kind of like half of an AI. You know what I mean? It's like an ATX, but it's half the price. So there is that.
Yeah. I have a Seekins coming.
I blew
Of
ours
course,
up.
when was that? Whenever that was that we put the order in, like it's been
Yeah,
like
I
nine
saw
months. But
Maddie at shot. I blew ours up with a I blew it up in 223. I had a composite and it cratered. But yeah,
I
I'm gonna
remember
send
that.
it. I got to send it in and get another one. But I talked to him at shot because now it's the Gen 2. They have the
Yeah.
Hit Pro. They upgraded it, so it's completely different. But it's a great platform. So Seekins really can get you in the game in the same $3,000 budget. I mean, at the end of the day, with a rifle and scope, bare minimum, you need 3,200.
Yeah. So I
Unless you're
got
gonna.
the SP10, the Seekins there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna this year if there's a match close and I could go to it, I'm gonna take the SP10 to a PRS match because I shoot that thing as good as a bolt gun. it's not going to matter because you're not moving it fast. But if there
Yeah.
was a time to shoot like a carbine, I could move it and shoot it like a carbine. But it's precise as a motherfucker, right? I mean, that video we put out with the Able suppressor on it, and that
Mm-hmm.
it was 35 shots under an inch.
Yeah, it was stacking them.
So, I don't know exactly how the price shakes out, but it's got to be in that range of there's a lot of options. And when we first started, you said, "Oh, the AR is the way to go." Yeah, I mean, you could build an AR-15 for a few $100, but for a precision gas gun, I don't think people could put together gas guns and deliver a product like a company like Seekins can. And I'm really, really impressed. Like, just there's literally nothing I could say bad about that. And the hits, I'm excited to get mine, or the lighter hunter version.
Mm-hmm. The Havoc,
Um,
yeah.
but if they're in that $3,000 range, again, like it's just worth it. And if you can, the hit though, you can change the bolt heads out. So now you've got a rifle where you
Right.
can call them up. And how much is another barrel? Because you could say, well, I'm going to shoot 223, and then you just change the bolt head, and then
Mm-hmm.
you put on a 308 barrel, and now you're shooting 308.
Right. Once you get to the next kind, once you have it, going to another caliber, if you had to buy a bolt head, is $1,000. I mean, that's your bolt head, that's your barrel. A couple hundred for it's like 150 for the bolt head or something, and then it's like 750 for the barrel. So you're looking at $1,000 gets you in another caliber and uses that rifle up. And I want to say they're like 2,400 out of the box. So
Yeah, I
that
mean,
becomes a
it's
scope. So
crazy.
right, so you're at 20 again. Finding those like rifles that have the right chassis, like the Solus, like the Seekins, because the RPR is kind of there and it's half the price, but the RPR, it's a little different.
Yeah, I mean, when we did the Solus unboxing, there was a lot of interest. But
Yeah,
when we took
they're
the
saying
Solus
it's
to the
it's
range, it was shit hot.
yeah, they're saying that it's you know, that hit is 1,800 for the Havoc hit. So the hit is around 1,800. I know there's a Gen 2. I thought he did a price change with them, but
No, because they had a shot show thing that said we are not changing the price.
oh,
We're just
okay.
making everything better. Yeah, they
Got it.
said, oh well, we made everything better, and so we stopped making all our old shit, but we decided to keep it all the same price anyway. And it's like that cowboy guy that's their media face
Yeah,
guy,
Maddie,
but
that's Maddie. Maddie.
it's like, I mean, a good guy to represent, um, keeps everybody psyched. But I there's something to be said for, you got one system, and if you have a pack with two or three barrels in it, you've got the same scope, the same platform, so you don't have to change how you shoot. You don't have to get familiar with different optics. But all of a sudden, bang, for an extra $1,000, now you have two rifles,
Right. I have to
three
call Joel
rifles.
and see when Joel's sending the 6 arc action to me. He said it was in, and he just had to mail it out at shop. But I want to definitely go and try that 6 arc because I'm pretty. I know the Missouri people said it'll work. That
Yeah, I mean, with
you
long
can
barrel, it's
gateway
got
right,
perfect speeds.
right. You do the right
Yeah.
barrel, you can reload it easy enough. It's a cheaper reload, it's cheaper components, it's cheaper everything. There's factory ammo, and I really think the gateway is going to be like a 6 arc as far as that. And then you'll just in order to be competitive, you'll just have to hand load it. You know what I mean?
But if you luck out and the groups are good, I
Yeah.
think, you're pretty good because, again, like, standard deviations matter, but not at a lot of these competition distances. But you need that rifle to be repeatable. And if it's flexing and bending
Yes.
and that, to me, the answer for hunting is the same thing. If you have a $400 rifle, but it flexes, you may as well be out there with a slingshot. And if success rates on hunts, if the failure rate is so big because people are missing their shots, I don't know why you see Colorado, they'll say like, this many tags were sold and, 10% were, successfully harvested. I hope to hell that like that is because people decided not to go and not because they shot and missed their targets. Um, getting a good rifle and having it last your whole life, but being repeatable makes more sense to me. And
Yeah.
saving a few $100, like,
Yeah, I mean the
isn't doesn't
Savage
seem worth it.
prefits are used on like Bighorn, so they're talking like Savage and weight and carbon fibers and stuff. But Savage prefits, I believe, are what Bighorn uses. I think Aero Solus is a Savage prefit. There's a because it's a shorter shank, or the Savages tend to, as far as the barrel and the prefit stuff. 'Cause I'm just answering the question in the chat box I put up that. But weight wise, I don't think unless you're crossing over to hunt, weight doesn't become an issue because everybody's going to balance it and stack some weight on it anyway because weight's stability. So I don't see the need to go lighter unless you're going that hunting crossover. But if you're just going straight, I want to do a weekend match, then the weight isn't a thing.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have a rig that's 16 to 18 pounds, that's heavy. That's not your standard hunter loadout. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of the hearing about hunting rifles that are 6 pounds or something because
Yeah. So the
everything
question.
is.
Can you see the
Go ahead.
question that came up? Um,
No.
I put it on the broadcast. It doesn't show up over me. You can't see it. That I put.
Uh-uh.
Okay. I thought you could see them. Never mind.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, so he's asking about hand loading presses we use. I'm a T7 turret. He's using a zero press. I mean, zero is going to be your best option out there. But I'm a T7. You have like a T7 too, don't you? What is your press, or is it just a rock chucker?
Oh, no, no, no. I've got the single stage, whatever that red single stage,
A Forester.
a Forster
Okay, he's got
coax.
a coax. He's got a Forester. I use a T7 and a rock chucker, and but I think the zero is probably the best press out there.
Yeah, the Zero is awesome if you could afford it, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I haven't touched loading stuff for probably 4 years, and I'm like so happy about it. Like that, mentioning
Right.
loading, I'm like,
Yeah, but
oh
we
gosh.
gotta though. You know what I mean? We gotta kind of juice some loads up and go. And I mean, it's the only because we shoot so much factory and we do so much with it. It's clearly a handicap to have factory ammo today in 2025 because SDs are terrible. But hand loading's the only way to go if you want to do it right. And it's just we
But
don't.
remember, like Ryan, he's the lowest SD we've ever seen, and he does it on a Dillon 550.
Right.
So
So one of the guys Chris
you could do it
mentors
if you have a
an
process.
NRL hunter uses a Dillon 550. His load for his 6.5 Creedmoor is a 153 going 2575. His SD is zero. Like he went to a hunter match and when they chronoed him, he was a zero. They tried to call him back and he's like, "No, my shit's a zero." But he's like a one between a 1 and a 2. And he shot 3-inch groups at 1,000 yards in a 12-mile-an-hour wind with an SD of zero with a 153 going 2575.
Yeah,
Just
super slow. Like he'd get up and then you'd see his fingers
yeah,
go bing.
and that's what happened. Chris was doing a stage with him, mentoring him, and I saw him run into position, drop down like to a sitting behind a tripod. He fired a shot, stood up, and then it hit. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And
Yeah,
I
he stood
thought he
up and
was
he goes
yeah. And
ding.
and I thought it was like 2650. I'm like, he's doing 6.5s at 2650. And I'm like, "Are you 2650?" And he's like, "No, I'm 2575, but I'm a SD of zero." And so I made
Right.
him show me, and he literally shot a 3-inch group, and then his match ammo was a 3-inch group. His training ammo, which is everything left over from matches, was a 6-inch group. And then I gave him factory burger and he got 4 out of 5 on the plate. So it goes to show you just what a difference that makes. That this guy shot a 3-inch group with his hand loads and got 4 out of 5 on the plate with factory. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but that's at 1,000 yards, so it's a pretty
In
long
wind,
shot,
and
and
it was 12 miles of
stuff plays
wind,
out.
but yeah, but
Hmm.
still, he was that tuned, and that's the difference a hand load can make.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know if anybody has as many NRL Hunter trophies as he does now. He tore his ACL, so he just had it fixed. But he
Hmm.
went to a match and mentored um some skills people. So he walked through, like he had surgery, so he's on crutches, and mentored um some people. So he's been involved, but he hasn't shot. But
Yeah, he's
he'll
broken.
be back soon. I don't know. He has like 20 plus wins or something like that. So he's a
Yeah,
good
it's just crazy
and he's
what
just
you.
a fucking awesome guy. But he does it on a 550. And so when you hear people say like, "Oh, you got to have all this stuff," and he's like, "Well, no, like I clean the brass and do this and load it on a 550. But if you do what you're supposed to do right when you figure it out, then the 550 takes care of it. But it's the figuring out what to do
Right. Once you get to
that."
well, it's the computer shit. It's like once we get the processes and everything flows and works great, like I don't know why this Facebook is dropping all the time, but it's the process. Once you create the process, you should be able to just go and hit the easy button, and
Mhm.
the Dylan is the easy button as far as the process goes because it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that's cool because you could see the results playing out on something that's considered turbo, but the preparation, right, the procedure was determined, and then it's like, all right, if this works, it's going to work, and bang, it works. So, um, yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I just don't like hand loading, and so, uh, but yeah, I think we will have to, and we have a 550, but it's not even set up, so it's never been used. It's just sitting there because that's how much I hate it.
I forgot
Um,
we do have a.
yeah, it's sitting in August room on a table in my son's room, and it's like 90% ready, and I have a 120 for pouring
I forgot we even bought
powders and
that.
shit. Um, so we could, and we have dies for everything that we shoot. I need to figure out a load for the 300 PRC,
I
but
have it.
that's where like my
And it's what we need to do with the PRC is we need to do like a 215 grain load. And if we do a 210 or 215, I looked it up for that because I have my PRCs here too. Um, It's like a 210. I think if we did a 210, we can really crank the speed, but we could do a 215 as well cuz like factory comes with the 225. We know we want to bring that down to the same as the Norma. The Normas they're doing now with the 215. If we did the 300 with the Norma, I would almost say we would be in a butter zone with that straight pipe and everything going there. Like a 300 Win Mag, if we were in that 210 zone, I would bet with because they have some really Gucci 210s, 215, 30 cal bullets, BC wise. I bet you if we cranked it behind a PRC, it would be like a mile would be like shooting 1,000 yards with your 6.5.
Yeah, there are some bullets with amazing
Me too.
BCs in that random range. I think
I actually had a guy. I had Andrew McCourt. He's an F class guy. He would load for me. And yes, we do need somebody who's autistic who will load for us. So they're saying we need an ADH guy to load for us. And that's absolutely a thing.
well, I'm about as ADH as it gets, but I just can't even fucking bring myself to. I'm like, oh gosh, there's too many other things to do. Like, and that's the answer always. Um,
We're just the wrong kind of ADHD.
yeah, like,
We can't sit still long enough to reload correctly. So we need the people who are the OCD to reload
yeah,
for us.
right. We just like, well, when you're at the VA, you got to find that person that's like, doing all the OCD
Yeah,
stuff and be like,
yeah.
"Hey, look, you got to load just like this every time."
I won't. I'll admit I was on Amazon yesterday looking at fidget spinners. I'm like,
Yeah,
like, I
yeah.
need to
Well, the
spin.
trace ammo doesn't have 300 PRC, but that's basically hand loaded ammo that you just buy like factory, and it's good. But yeah, I will get around to it. It's one of those things that's like, man, it's so easy to put off.
Yeah, like
It's
here
worse
in
worse
the
than
Nosler,
taxes.
a Nosler RDF 210 has a 0.7 G1.
Whoa.
Yeah, so a Nosler 210 put behind a 300 PRC, that's a point 0.7. Now, if we crank that muzzle velocity up a little bit, I bet you that's a 720 BC on that
I
guy.
remember like some years ago, Nosler was having some issues with
They
bullets.
did for a minute, but
I just haven't kept up on anything like that because I just shoot factory and
yeah, but I mean
call it good.
Nosler has a lot of speed, man. They do. They run a lot of speed. They're 22, all the Noslers kind of punch a little bit more speed because they do the hunt thing. Yeah. Yeah, they're showing the 195 at 3,100 feet per second. Yeah, 195 would crank. I think the 210 to carry a little extra, maybe the 215, but a 210 would be money to
Yeah,
drop
you
it to
need
a
to
three.
figure out what like 2,000 yards and
Yeah, we
in.
need to tune it for 2 grand, and then everything else would be butter.
Yeah,
That would be like such
but
awesomeness. Cool,
Night
man.
Force registration went live on the first,
I
and it
saw you
sells out
got
so
dragged.
fast that I
I
got
saw
in. I was like, bang.
I saw you got dragged into Louis.
Ugh.
They
Oh,
booted him. The
oh,
local guy.
well, I didn't see that, but he sent me a message saying,
Yeah,
"Hey, can you do a podcast about like people getting over grudges and like
yeah.
getting?" And
He
I
signed up
figured there
for it,
was,
and Pete said no. So he was all mad because Pete's like, I told you why. And Pete just said in his email, because they showed it, the match will be better without you, kind of thing. and
oh
and so he's mad, and so I was watching and he's like totally pissed that because of the Doug Koning match and all the little things that happened around that, the cameo match that you were at, they won't let him shoot the East, the even in their shutting them off here now with Wyco. So the
oh shit,
Wyco, so he's getting, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but it's. I was watching
that's
it,
too
and
bad.
I was watching, and he's right. Like, get over the thing. But if he's kind of the mouth, but people are trying to say he's wrong in front of women and kids, and I'm like, well, how many women and kids is he in front of talking smack?
I
And
haven't seen that, so I can't speak
right,
to it.
yeah,
But
exactly. So they're justifying it that he says stuff when but now we're getting into you can't talk because there's women and kids around. And it's like,
yeah,
well, okay, okay, but I can't say anything. We had a blacklist at Rifles Only. I get it.
yeah,
There was people we didn't
right.
want to play with. I understand not wanting to play with people. I never met him. I don't know him. You have, and I just thought it was funny because he was tagging you and everything.
Oh, I didn't see that, but I did see a message. But the thing is, like, I stood up for him out of principle at a match, and I got in a shit storm because of it. But I don't. I'll stand by it
Yeah, I get it.
forever.
But
Somebody I could be vocal and I could be loud, but like, if we're thinking about principle in the big picture, like, dude, a big time PRS guy pulled a fucking knife on a kid somewhere, and he still shoots. Like, so don't tell me about being
well,
wrong in front of women and
kinda.
children,
He's not on the
right?
teams anymore, and he has a 5-year suspension. So
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of crazy shit happens, not just
yes, there
somebody
is.
mouthing
There's
off.
stuff,
Like,
and honestly, there's other stuff that should be just as bad. That, but I'm not. I'm not going to get into the
oh yeah,
politics.
I'm not gonna
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
But
I'm
and
I'm
I
just
know of
laughing.
like
I'm
crazy
laughing
shit, and
that
it's like some
politics is now spilling in more openly. I'm not judging. I'm just laughing. And so
yeah.
I think it's funny that
No,
that
no,
you got
I don't want to
tagged and
get
all
into
that.
it either, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's rightful for him to pull me in because I was outspoken to the point of, the all of the heat turned towards me because I was so like, what the fuck? And um but there's all sorts of crazy shit. And a dude that loves shooting, like taking that outlet away from him, I think is not
Right.
not the right thing.
And that's the thing is
Because
that the guy likes it. I mean, I can see putting somebody on probation and telling them, "Hey man, you're on probation. And this is what
Mhm.
probation means." You know, but
Yeah,
that comes back to there's no standard anything.
yeah.
Once
Like,
you
oh
cross
right, like
series and once you cross dividing lines, maybe he can go to a border war in Nebraska and they won't care. Maybe he can go to California and shoot a surge NRL hunter. They don't care. But
yeah,
Wyoming, Colorado, and his immediate, apparently they do. But I can
yeah,
see putting a guy on probation first and saying, here's the rules of probation. But since they don't have processes, they don't have a actual system, it's all herky jerk arbitrary, then you run
yeah.
into
There was
where,
like a yellow card or a red card
yeah,
kind of thing. Like, okay,
exactly,
well,
exactly.
you have to do 3 matches and you can compete, but your scores won't be
Right.
listed. And then you could do 5 matches and they will, but if there's anything that happens in those
Right.
five
It's a
matches, you'll
year
go
ba
back
like
to
there should be a path. There should be it shouldn't be he signed up and then he found out through a refund he was out.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's been 3 or 4 years. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
And so it was like he signed up, his money got kicked back, and he was told he wasn't welcome. I
Yeah.
saw it.
Well,
They didn't explain it like he said, but it's not my job.
but I mean, think about it. Like, you love shooting. It's something that you like to do. He still wants to be involved.
Right.
Even though it has no correlation whatsoever to this, but I can't help but think about like the kid whose dad was a terrorist that got blown up. They throw the kid in some kind of prison. Of course, when that kid gets out, he's gonna hate the people that threw him
Yeah.
in prison.
Mhm.
Like, come on, like just fucking rehabilitate him by immersing him back in the culture and
And like you said, he wants to be part of it. Make him an RO. Make him show that the other side sucks. Hey, man, I'm going to show you how we deal with 100 of you. So you're going to
right.
be on this side if you want a road to rehabilitate. And I think he should have been given a path to rehabilitate because it was just a he said, she said, I don't like what happened to me. And he pushed back. He didn't,
Yeah.
I don't see him as doing something like he didn't ND and almost hit someone. He didn't do, I mean, there's people who've ND'd who are there all day, every day having a good old time. And so, yeah.
Well, he didn't push back. I pushed back, and but I actually like that idea better. Like, hey, you need to RO three
Yeah.
national matches,
You need to be my
and
range bitch for for 3 matches to show me you understand what's going on here. But like I said, there's
yeah,
no
instead
processes,
of
there's no systems. It's arbitrary. You can go to Wisconsin, one thing will happen. You can go to North Carolina, another thing will happen. You can go to Wyoming, and a third thing will happen. And that
yeah,
is really the shame.
yeah. Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, I get it.
Because at
That's
the end of the day, he's a nice guy. He just like
well, and that's
he's
what
loud and yeah,
in like you've said, he's into it and he wants to, that's his thing.
yeah, and it
So
hasn't gone away, right?
right.
Which is saying something.
So I don't know.
Um,
All right, man.
yeah.
I think we're good. I can go home and watch. I got Oak Island tonight. They're gonna find more wood in the dirt. So
All right.
they're ready to put a 13-foot caisson down because they think they narrowed it down. You got to think about this. So they're on this stupid little island that might have been two islands that were joined together in the 15 to 1700s. They're digging with like sonic drilling. they're finding shit 150 feet underground.
Is that just because like stuff flows over because of the water,
No,
or
they dug it. It's Trent. There's tunnels. There's a vault system. There's tunnels. There was the booby trap system, which is the water, because they tripped the booby trap system. So Oak Island in the 1800s, some kids saw lights. They said when they went to the island, under an oak tree was a depression. When they found it, they found platforms every 10 feet when they dug. When they did find treasure, like a certain amount, they even say the people who lived there became oddly wealthy because people had lived on the island. And they, like, one of them was a slave. An American slave ran away to Canada and lived on that island and became wealthy.
Mm,
So they know they found things because that's how the island got populated again after the 1800s. So these guys dug down. When they got to 90 feet, they found a stone with code on it. They were like, fuck it. And they dug past it. They tripped booby traps. They moved water from the shore to the inland underground and sealed it. When you broke it, it flooded everything and you can't get in because it just caves in now. So even President Roosevelt, when he was in college, went there to dig for treasure. They've been digging for treasure since the 1800s, and they've had cave ins and they've had problems, and people have found things that don't fit. Well, then the brothers buy this island or buy the property on the island to do the dig, and the brothers got money. Like they build like one he has a winery, one of them they build uh the windmills. So they have windmill
hmm
money. Well, now they bring in construction companies to dig, to drill, to search, and to look. And like they had to bring archaeologists and stuff. They have Roman coins from before like 1000 AD. And why are there Roman coins in Nova Scotia? You know, they have Viking stuff. But then what it looks like is the way it looks is that the Templars came there through the Vikings. So the Templars are fighting in Jerusalem. The Vikings come down from Germany, the Black Sea, and make their way to the Crusades. So you have Vikings alongside Crusaders.
hmm
Well, when the Templars, because the Templars are like special forces, the Vikings linked up with the Templars. And they
Oh,
went from the Middle
that's
East
crazy.
to Italy. Well, when they were in Italy and France, then in 1300, the Catholic Church outlaws the Templars and chases them. They killed a bunch in France. Well, the guys who lived took all their gold, went to England and Scotland, and they said they got together with the Sinclairs, and the Sinclairs were running like the eastern rim of the North Atlantic. So from
hmm
Scotland up towards Denmark and those areas. Well, when the Vikings showed up with the Templars, the Vikings said no, go west, and took them to Iceland and Nova Scotia because the Vikings were already doing Greenland and Iceland and dropping down into Canada. So
hmm
they knew you can go across. And they supposedly, the Templars then went to them when they were being hunted and buried their treasure. Well, it's kind of known that's a treasure island. There's a pirate like 200 years later or 100 years later, after the Templars did their thing, is
hmm
there in Nova Scotia. He finds the wreck of the Concepcion, which is a Spanish um, fleet and it was laden with silver. It hurricaned in Cape Cod and sunk. Well, it sunk in shallow water and they found it. And this pirate had all the treasure from the Spanish fleet. He only brought half back to Spain.
Oh,
So they're
and they think he
saying
put it on Oak Island?
they put it on top of the Templar shit. Well, they're finding multiple places. So there's a guy who had a house on Oak Island in the 1800s who paid his farming bill with Spanish silver. And they and
That's awesome.
right. Well, he put his house in the worst possible place ever. They're like, why was his house here? His house was in the lowland by the swamp, not on the highland of the island that can see out, because it watched both sides of the inlet and it watched where he found his money. So he can see where he put the treasure because they found like a vault, like in the swamp.
Hmm.
And like that's all the 1800s stuff. Well, when they were
But the
digging,
big issue now is that it flooded, so it's
right.
just
Well, no,
full of
they
mud
made that
and
the swamp is man made. They believe the swamp was there's a
oh,
pyramid in an eye of the swamp like a Templar eye, and there's a hole that was made with rocks to create an eye of the pyramid. X marks the spot. Well, they're digging the swamp up. They drained it and dug it up. They found a road in a quay from like 15, 1600 that was hidden and buried. There's roads, there's a dock, and there's stuff. And when they trace the wood back, it's like 1600 to 1400. It was before
so
America.
why don't they just sink huge walls and make like a giant
Well, one, they can't because they have to go through archaeology. They have to go
oh
through the Canadian government, and it's so water laden that they do make dams and they have to make coffer dams and stuff because whenever they dig, the water just comes in because the booby trap was tripped, you know, 400 years ago or whatever it was. But they found like 1200-year-old money. They found 800-year-old stuff. They're finding tons of stuff. And a lot of it, like the best stuff, you got to go at least 3 feet before you find it.
hmm,
And then they go even deeper and they're finding all this. So I watch Oak Island on Tuesday nights.
might watch it now too.
Yeah,
I've seen a couple
no, but
episodes at your
yeah,
house,
but
but
it's mega repetitive. It's the same thing because it's slow. So it's like
yeah.
we found wood, and like Laura laughs. It's like we found wood, we found wood, we found wood. It's like yeah, but they found wood 150 feet underground, and it's cut wood, and it was cut with like an axe.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because they know, and then they dendral chronology check everything. So anytime they find shit, they send it out to get it tested, and they even have like high dollar test equipment now because they were so used to every episode going to the college and saying test this, test this. Now they just have all the machines in their own place, so they don't have to go to the college to do it. So they have
Oh,
like huge $1 million machines to go through like encrusting, and then like when they get coins or they'll find a lot of lead.
hmm,
They can test the lead and they'll say this came from France in 1322. And they know because they have so much lead from over the years, the composition, they have databases
mhm.
of it. So they can find, like, they can say, oh, this came from Italy in 1200. Oh, this came from China in 1020. Because they even found Chinese coins because pirates carry everything. So, like, they found a Chinese coin there too. And they're like, how the hell did we have a Chinese coin? And but yeah, it's just nuts what they find. But it's weird because there's a layer of like British military and then there's a layer of like 1600 that's not British. It's more like Italian and French. And so, like I said, they found a half a dozen Roman coins.
That's pretty cool though. It's better
And
than watching politics and shit.
yeah, it is bad. And the other thing they find too, cut coins, because back in the day they used to cut them and give you a piece of a coin because the coin was a big weight, like, and they measured it and it was gold or silver. So they find perfectly cut coins that have been cut, and then they'll find a lot of trade scales. They'll find the weights from trade scales back in the day.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah.
Imagine being like, "Oh, here's your change." They cut it.
Yeah, and
Here's
that's
half a
what they
quarter.
did. That's totally what they did. It's like, how much is that? Well, that's an ounce of gold. Well, here's a 2-ounce piece. I want my half back. You know? And so they test
That's
it,
awesome.
and that's what they do. But it's a neat thing. It is repetitive. But they use a bunch of science. It's a lot of construction stuff, and they check everything. And even like the archaeologists, the sites, they have archaeologists there. They're doing all the stupid slow stuff, and they'll find they found they found their sleeping area, and they found in the sleeping area tons and tons of trade beads from Venice.
Oh,
So
that's pretty cool.
yeah, so they have trade beads and lots of them. And so you would wear your trade beads on your necklace or your bracelet, and then you could just use the bead as currency. And so they
Oh,
have like
nice.
trade beads as well, but they're from Venice from like 1300,
Badass. Actually, like how it weaves into history and so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
he's asking
Man,
but yeah, we're going to take off, but yes, they probably did cuz they were Sinclairs. He's asking about Scotland. They said they came over with the Sinclairs from Scotland. And the thing is if you go to the Sinclair church in Scotland that was built before they found America, that's part of all this story. It's got corn cut into the walls of the church. So why are there corn stalks in a Sinclair church in Scotland that was built before they found America? Corn came from us. So they think they went over and there was Indians from there, and they think that the Templars, the Sinclairs, the Vikings and all that were totally in America because there's corn carved into the church. So, corn stalks.
well, shit. Maybe I'll turn onto it, and
Yeah, yeah. All right, guys.
my little furry doorbell keeps
Yeah.
freaking
Well,
up, and
well,
nobody's here.
well, thanks. All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for watching. They're digging on it. I dig the lives. We'll do more when I'm home. And sorry about the Facebook dropping. I'll figure out what it is.